It's Halloween week. I'm on nights again. 3 different places, 3 different problems, a museum ladder that won't stay folded, a 911 line that rings from nowhere, and a storm shelter door that opens the wrong way. No jump scares, just the kind of details that make you stop and listen. These are told by the people who were there, and they still swear they're true. Brief disclaimer: names and locations are changed. Details are told as they were remembered. I was the overnight guard at a city museum. Old stone, tall rooms, a lot of echo. Halloween week, late shift. We were taking down a show in Gallery B and moving pieces to the dock. The day crew had left labels half peeled and blue tape on the floor to mark where crates should sit. Most lights were off, only safety lights and a few work lamps were on, so the rooms felt bigger than they look in the day. Nights here follow a loop. I badge in, check the alarm board, look at the camera wall and read the handover notes. That night, the notes were short. One camera over Gallery B freezes sometimes, the landline on the dock clicks, and radios drop a bar near the marble stair. Nothing new. Engineering keeps saying a full upgrade is coming. It always is. The building alarm was set for motion zones everywhere except the route we needed: loading dock, freight hall, Gallery B, then back. Every other door and gallery was armed. If anyone opened a wrong door, the panel would scream and our vendor would call the desk. Simple on paper. Staff was thin, just me on patrol, one art handler finishing paperwork in an office off Gallery B, and a cleaner on another floor. No contractors, no visitors. We keep a sign-out board for tools, ladders, lifts, keys. The big A-frame ladder for B was supposed to be folded and tarped by the wall. The crate stack closest to it had numbered seals we check each lap. If a seal number doesn't match the sheet, I call the manager. That is the rule, even if it feels picky. The museum has little habits you learn. The skylight ticks when the glass cools. The stone floor holds cold, so your breath shows a bit in some rooms even when the heat is on low. A few galleries eat radio signal. Gallery B is one of them. If you stand under the old dome camera, your radio will drop from 3 bars to 1, then come back when you step out by the arch. It's a pocket of dead air. We joke about it, but we still work around it. I did a slow first lap to set my eyes. Dock door, closed, latched. Freight hall door, closed. Gallery. B clear. Ladder, flat under the tarp, feet chalked on the floor from earlier work. Crate seals, numbers correct. Tape edges flat. The dome camera blinked once, then the image froze, the way it does on bad nights. I wrote, B-cam froze, timestamp stuck in the log, because writing it is part of making it real enough to fix. The art handler leaned out of his office and said he needed about 20 minutes to finish a condition report. He's careful. He doesn't leave notes half done. He wears cotton gloves even when he's just counting boxes. He pointed at the tarp and said, "Leave that ladder put. We're done with ceiling work." I said, "Got it." The cleaner texted that she was in the lobby and would not enter B. We keep people out of the path, so the alarm zones stay simple. I told her to call if any door made noise or if the dock phone rang by itself. It rings sometimes with a dial tone and no one there. Old line, old building. I took a minute to make small tells the way I always do when I am the only one on the floor. I set a scrap of ticket stub half under the ladder foot, edge showing. If someone moved the ladder, the scrap would push out or fold. I also put a tiny pencil dot on the clear tape at the corner of the nearest crate seal. If that corner lifted and went back down, the dot would crack. Easy tricks, not fancy. They save you from guessing later. I walked the outer loop. Past B is a short hall to a locked service door. That door should stay cold to the touch and firm at the latch. I put 2 fingers on the edge and felt normal metal. No wiggle. The air by the threshold didn't move. I like when doors act like doors. Back at the desk, I checked the camera wall again. The B view still held on the same clean frame. Empty room, ladder lump under tarp, crates in 2 stacks, work lamp halo on the floor, time stamp frozen. I tried the usual reset, off and on at the matrix, but it didn't bite. I wrote another note and put a sticky on the monitor so I wouldn't forget I already tried. The museum at night is mostly small noises. The HVAC breathes, the floor pops when it settles. The vending machine in staff break will sometimes kick and hum even if no one is near it. You learn to sort those out fast. Anything new gets your full attention. Anything new on Halloween week gets your full attention twice. I made a second lap with the radio at my mouth in case the pocket got cute. I count things as I go. Door hinges, fire pull stations, outlet covers, lights that flicker. Counting keeps you honest. It also gives you something to do besides think about how every case and plinth looks like a person when your flashlight hits it wrong. The weather was changing outside. The glass roof made that soft click it makes before light rain. The air in the halls pulled a little on my sleeves. Not a draft, just that slow shift you get when the building is equalizing. I wrote pressure change starting in the margin, not because anyone cares, but because I do. When pressure changes, some doors like to pretend they were opened. I like to be able to say later that the sky was part of the story. I checked the sign-out board again. No new initials. No one had touched the ladder, the lift, or the tool cabinet since day shift. The key safe showed the same count as at start. The art handler called the manager on the landline to confirm tomorrow's pickup time. I could hear the ring from the office, then a cut, then nothing. He tried again. It went through the second time. Phones do that here. You can blame the lines or the building. Both will accept. Before the next lap, I did a small comfort task. Straightened a stack of foam corners, pushed a roll of tape back into its box, and moved a loose label to the trash. It sounds silly, but tidying lets you notice what changes when you come back. If a roll is out again or a label walks, you know it wasn't you. I set my watch to buzz at 10-minute mark so I would not slip. It did. I started the next lap. Same route, same order, same simple plan, doors, ladder, crates, camera, door, again. You do this work by rhythm. The rhythm lets you hear the note that doesn't belong. Everything felt normal right up until it didn't. On the next lap, small things were wrong. The tarp over the ladder had shifted. The blue tape I put on the edge was torn halfway, like a thumb hooked it and let go. One ladder foot sat on top of the ticket scrap now, not half over it like I left it. I lifted the tarp. The ladder was open 2 rungs. Not flat. Not how we store it. No one had signed it out. I checked for marks. No new scuffs on the wall, no fresh chips on the floor, just a faint smear on the rung where a hand would grab. Dust on my palm, a light grey. Fresh dust is sticky. Old dust slides. This stuck. I looked up at the mezzanine rail again. 2 finger-wide wipes were still there. Now there was a third, shorter, like someone tried to peek over, then changed their mind. The rail is high. You need a ladder to reach it. That bothered me more than it should have. The dome camera over B did its blink and freeze trick, but the frame had changed. In the frozen image, the ladder shape under the tarp looked a little taller. You could argue it was the angle. You could also admit the picture moved once, and then stopped on me when my back was turned. I wrote the time on my notepad and circled it. The seal corner on the nearest crate had a new crease across my pencil dot. The number still matched the sheet, so the seal was good on paper. It didn't look good to me. It looked like someone lifted that corner, thought about it, then pressed it back down with a nail. I tried the service door again. Handle felt normal. Key turned normal. Deadbolt snug. When I let go, the door gave a small sigh into the frame like it had been pulled a hair, then closed itself. Air does that in old buildings, but it felt like a person letting go of your sleeve. I called the cleaner. She answered on the first ring. She was still in the lobby and had not come upstairs. She asked if I wanted her to avoid the dock. I told her yes, keep clear. The art handler came back out with a clipboard. He saw me kneeling by the crate and asked if I needed help. I said I was checking seals. He said, "No one's touching those tonight." He looked at the ladder and frowned again. "Did you move that?" I told him no again. He went back into his office and shut the door harder than he meant to. The landline on the dock rang once and cut. Not a full ring. Just one chirp, like a pocket dial. I stood still and listened for a second ring. Nothing. The phone in B stayed quiet. I set new tells. I put a tiny pencil line on the rung hinge joint. If someone opened it more, the line would break. I slid a clean postcard under the other foot so it would drag if the ladder moved. I pressed the crate seal edge flat, then put a shorter line across the tape with the pencil. If the corner lifted again, the line would crack. I checked my radio. 1 bar under the camera. 3 bars when I stepped into the arch. I called dispatch for a test. Radio check. They answered fine. "You good?" I said yes. I didn't say what I was thinking. In the hall, the motion light clicked on before I stepped under it. It's on a sensor. It should wait for me. It didn't. I stood in the doorway and watched the empty lighted hall for 10 long seconds. No sound. No shadow. Just the light being early. I did a slow circle of B with my flashlight low to the floor. The beam caught a thin curl of clear tape stuck to the baseboard near the crate stack. That's the kind of trash you get when someone peels a seal and changes their mind. I bagged it in a zip bag from my pocket and wrote the time on the bag with a Sharpie. I checked the camera wall again from the desk. The frozen frame still showed the taller tarp shape. Timestamp still stuck. I tried the matrix reset again. No luck. I took a photo of the screen with my phone in case anyone asked me later if I was sure. When I came back to B, the work lamp on the floor had turned a few degrees. The cord was still slack, the plug still in, but the lamp face pointed more toward the ladder now, not the crates. Maybe my boot clipped it earlier. I could believe that if I wanted to. I wasn't sure I wanted to. I wrote in the log with 1 line, no drama, just facts. Ladder, open 2 rungs, tape, tail torn, ticket scrap moved, new dust wipe on rail, seal edge creased again, sensor light early, phone, single ring and cut. And then I underlined the time and started the next lap. Slower than before, eyes on the little things. The next lap started normal, and then wasn't. Halfway to Gallery B, the hallway light came on early again. It should wait for a body. It didn't. It clicked on, then off, then on, like a hand waved twice and left. I stood there a moment, watching empty air pick a fight with a motion sensor. In B, the room felt a little cooler. Not cold, just like the air had been traded out while I was gone. The tarp over the ladder had a soft ripple across it, the way fabric looks after someone lifts it and lets it fall. My blue tape tail on the edge was torn the rest of the way now. Not ripped wild, just a clean finish, like someone didn't like messy edges. I checked my pencil line on the ladder hinge. It was broken. Only a hair, but broken. The postcard I slid under the other foot had drifted so the white edge stuck out clean. The ladder wasn't wide open, but it was farther from flat than I left it. I ran my fingers under a rung. Fresh dust again, same grey tack. I looked up at the mezzanine rail. The 2 long wipes were still there. The short third line now had a twin right beside it, like someone tested their balance and then tried again. There was a small crescent on the rail where a wrist might rest. My flashlight caught it, and the shine looked new. The work lamp's face had turned another few inches toward the ladder. The cord hadn't moved. I set the lamp back to center. Then I stopped and looked at my own boot prints in the thin film of dust on the floor. 2 sets now, one on the walk-in and one turning around the lamp. Along the wall, right where the clear tape scrap had been, a narrow skid mark ran a few inches, as if a heel had dragged and then lifted. I tried the service door again. Same latch, same key, same answer, locked. This time, when I let go, the door pressed back against my palm like someone on the other side pressed at the same moment and then stopped. It wasn't hard enough to be a person playing games. It was just enough to make me take my hand away. The landline at the desk rang once and cut again. I jogged to it. Dial tone. I called the art handler's office. He picked up and said he was almost done. I asked if he could come out for a walkthrough with me. He said, give him 5 minutes. He sounded steady. That made me feel steadier. I went back to B and stood still. I didn't move the ladder, I didn't touch the crates, I just listened to the room. The museum hum was there, but under it was a soft tick, like a vent flap settling, then another tick above me. The ceiling in Gallery B is high and arched. There's a catwalk up there, but it's locked and only opened by engineering in the day. You can hear if someone walks it. I heard 2 light footfalls and then nothing. Could have been thermal shift, could have been my nerves. I don't like guessing. I took out my phone and snapped a photo of the ladder, the tarp fold, the postcard edge, the tape tell, the rail wipes. Not to post, just to have. When you go to write a report later, you forget the small angles. Pictures save you from that. The dome camera still sat on its frozen frame. Something about the framed shot bothered me now. In the still image, the tarp edge made a shape like a little tent. In real life, standing a step away, the tarp didn't. It lay flatter. It was like the camera had taken a picture of a moment I wasn't in, and then refused to take a picture of the one I was standing in. I wrote that down, even though it sounds strange on paper. I called dispatch for a quick check. All good? They gave me the standard answer. I thought about asking for another guard drive-by, then didn't. If I asked too soon and nothing came of it, I'd lose my only favor for the night. I decided to earn it first. The art handler came out with his clipboard. I showed him the tells. He nodded, slow. He's not jumpy. He said, let's do the crates together. We read the seal numbers out loud, one by one. They matched the list. When we reached the crate with the creased corner, he pressed the tape flat with a gloved finger and said, feels like it lifted. He didn't say by who. We checked the mezzanine door, still locked. He pressed his palm to the metal and said, feels warm. I touched it. Maybe. The thing about warm metal is your head can make it up if you want a reason to leave. I told him I'd do another lap and asked him to keep his office door open for a minute. He said, okay. He propped it with a book and sat where I could see him. I stepped into the hallway. The motion light didn't wait for me. It clicked on, off, on again, like before. I left it on and walked to the dock. The dock air felt normal. The outside door was still locked. I checked the logboard again. No one had signed out the ladder. No one had touched the key safe. Everything on paper was right. Back toward B, I heard a sound I don't like. The soft scrape of an aluminum foot against stone. I turned the corner and saw the tarp slide 2 inches down the ladder and stop. No wind, no vent directly over it. I walked in and stood next to it. The tarp lay quiet, like it meant to be there all along. I didn't touch it. I watched it for a full minute. Nothing. I told myself I needed more proof or I was just working myself up. So I made more tells. I placed a thin line of painter's tape on the floor from the ladder foot to a chalk line someone had drawn earlier. If the ladder walked even a hair, the tape would wrinkle. I set a coin upright by the baseboard under the mezzanine rail. If air moved hard or a shoulder brushed past, the coin would fall and tell on it. Cheap tricks, good tricks. I was about to start another lap when the cleaner radioed me. Her voice was thin on the edge of the dead spot. "Do you need me up there?" I asked where she was. "Lobby," she said. "I heard a thump on the stair, but no one came through." I told her to hold where she was and to keep the lobby doors locked. She said, "Okay." I stood in the arch to B and looked at the room the way a camera would, wide and flat. Ladder under tarp, crate square, lamp pointed right, tells in place. Nothing moved. It looked boring. Boring is good. Boring makes you doubt your own notes. I took one step back. The coin by the baseboard tipped and fell with a soft tick. I didn't run. I went to the coin and set it upright again. I looked up at the rail. The short white mark had grown by a finger width. I smelled a faint trace of something sharp. Hand cleaner or cheap soap, the kind you get from a staff bathroom. It faded fast. I called dispatch and kept it simple. "I have small signs of movement in a closed gallery, no alarm, requesting a unit to swing by in the next half hour." They said they'd pass it on. I thanked them and kept my voice even. On my way out of B, I put my hand on the ladder top to steady myself as I stepped over the cord. The metal was warmer than the rung below it. Not hot, just warm. That told me enough. I started the next lap, slower than before, and told the art handler, "Keep your door open." He didn't ask why, he just did it. The next 10 minutes felt long. I did a short loop past the dock and came back to Gallery B. The coin by the baseboard was still standing. The thin strip of tape on the floor by the ladder foot was smooth. The work lamp stayed pointed where I left it. For a second I thought maybe I had pushed myself into seeing patterns. Then the room answered. A soft slide, cloth on metal. The tarp eased down the ladder an inch, stopped. I waited. Nothing else moved. I walked to the tarp and pinched the edge. I could feel air under it like a slow breath had just finished. I lifted the tarp and set it back down flat. My hand shook a little. I told it to stop. I stepped under the old dome camera and raised my radio. It dropped a bar, like always. I said, "Radio check," and got the tone back after a beat. When I lowered my hand, something tapped above me. Not loud, just a toe sound on metal, up near the catwalk most people never see. "Anyone up top?" I called to the room. I kept my voice level. No answer. The air felt cooler again. I could smell hand soap for half a second. Then it was gone. I backed to the arch and looked up where the catwalk bolts into the wall. No shadow. No change. I listened. The ticks went quiet. The building seemed to decide to be boring again. I took my eyes off the ladder for 2 seconds to check the hall. When I looked back, the tape line I had laid from the ladder foot to the chalk mark had a tiny ripple in it. I went to my knees and put my face close. The ripple was small as a fingernail. It wasn't there before. The postcard under the other foot had slid a hair. The pencil line on the hinge had a new break, thin but real. That was enough for me. I keyed my radio. "Dispatch, copy one more," I said, still even. "Gallery B shows new small movement without staff present. Request unit sooner if free." They said they'd try. They asked if I wanted to clear the floor. I looked at the art handler's open office door. I said, "Negative for now," holding and observing. I stood up and took one step to the side. The coin by the baseboard tipped again and fell flat. I heard the soft scrape of rubber on stone up high where the catwalk runs. It was slow, like someone moving careful. Then a single creak from a bolt that has not been asked to work in a while. I told the art handler to step out where I could see him. He did. He looked at me. I pointed up with 2 fingers. He looked up, then back at me. He shook his head once, hard, like he didn't want that idea. I didn't want it either. We moved the way you do when you don't want to make a show of it. He stayed in my sight. I stepped to the service door, put my palm on the edge and felt a small pull, then nothing. I eased the lever, still locked. I pressed my ear to the seam. Quiet. Then the sound I will not forget. A ladder foot shifted on stone behind us, not slid, shifted. The sound had weight. We turned together. The ladder had opened one more click. The blue tape I had placed as a tell now hung clean in 2 pieces. No one was at the ladder, no one between us and it. I said, "We're stepping out." The art handler said, "Yes." No hero talk, just good sense. I called it in. "We're exiting B, going to the desk, holding for unit." My voice stayed calm, but my chest remembered how to be fast. We backed through the arch, eyes on the room. The motion light in the hall clicked on, off, on again, like it had been waiting to do that every time we got near it. I kept the art handler to my right, and the wall to my left so the open space stayed in front of me. We reached the corner. I took one last look into B. The work lamp face turned a few degrees toward the ladder. No one touched it. The cord stayed slack. The coin lay flat. The tape had its ripple. The ladder waited like a person who wanted to see if we would come back. I decided we would not come back just yet. At the desk, the phones were quiet. The camera wall still showed B frozen on a frame that did not match what I had just seen. I snapped another photo of the screen with my phone. I wrote a line in the log that said, "Exited B due to unlogged movement and sound above. Holding at desk, unit requested." Simple words. No story. Just facts. The cleaner called on the radio, voice tight now. "Someone just came down the back stair by the lobby. I heard steps. No one came out." I told her, "Stay where you are. Lock the inner door." She said, "It's locked." A minute later, the front glass at the lobby made a soft seal sound like it does when you open and close it. The camera showed nothing. The door log showed nothing. The magnet didn't chirp. It still sounded like someone had come or gone. We heard one loud thump from upstairs, not inside B, closer to the loading hall. I stood up and looked at the long view down the corridor. Nothing moved. The lights all stayed on now. They had given up on teasing. I told the art handler to stay at the desk and to keep the landline alive. I took the hall alone to the turn by B and leaned just enough to see the arch. The room looked like the room, except the tarp had slid off the ladder and lay on the floor like a shed skin. The ladder stood open now to working height. The tape on the floor was wrinkled all the way. The postcard had moved out from the foot by a hand's width. That was the line for me. I did not step back in. I did not touch the ladder. I raised the radio. "Dispatch, we're out of B and holding. Please advise ETA." They said, 2 minutes. I said, "Copy." In those 2 minutes, the building stayed very still. No more thumps, no more clicks. Even the vending machine chose to be polite. I watched the arch and waited for the sound I knew was coming. The sound of shoes on tile that are not mine. When the county unit pulled into the dock lane, I felt my shoulders drop without asking. 2 officers came in, slow and clean. We briefed them quick, no drama. We walked them to B together. The ladder was still open. The tarp was still on the floor. The tape still wrinkled. They cleared the room with us and then called for a key to the catwalk access. Engineering keeps that key in a red can, safe on the service level. We fetched it together. The officer went up first, careful, 1 step at a time. The other officer stayed below with me, eyes on the ladder like it might do a trick. The officer up top called down, Catwalk is dust, no fresh prints, no one here. Bolts look old, one is shiny, could have shifted. He took photos, he came back down. We stood and let the silence be what it was. They took our notes and my little zip bag with the scrap of clear tape. They were kind about it. They did not roll their eyes. They said, sometimes old buildings do this. And also, sometimes someone knows the pockets of a place and uses them. Both can be true. We folded the ladder together and slid the tarp back over it. I put new tells down, even though it felt silly to do it while uniforms were there. The officer said, do your thing. So I did. Coin upright. Tape smooth. Pencil line on hinge. Postcard underfoot. Little tricks that let you sleep. We locked B and posted at the desk again. The art handler finished his report with a hand that did not shake. He thanked the officers and said he'd be back at first light. The cleaner sat on her cart and stared at her hands for a while, then went back to the lobby floor like it had done something to her. I wrote the close call into the log in small words. Ladder opened on its own while room was clear. Tarp moved without contact. Sounds above gallery while camera stuck on frozen frame. Unit cleared area. No subject found. Then I drew a small box and wrote, do not enter B alone. And I signed it. The rest of the night, B stayed quiet. The coin did not fall again. The phone did not chirp. The door did not sigh. That is how these things go. You get one loud moment, then nothing. And the next day, when people come in and the lights are bright, it sounds like you are telling a story. But all I have are the tells, the tape, the broken pencil line, and the way a ladder can decide to stand up when you are not looking. Morning made the place feel normal again, but the notes did not change. The officers filed their report and told us to call if anything new showed up. They were steady about it. No jokes. They left with my little zip bag and a few photos of bolts and dust. Engineering came in with coffee and a cart. They looked at the dome camera first. Power was fine. The feed had frozen at a minute that did not match my notes. They did a reset. It woke up and acted like nothing had happened. They said the words people say when a thing is old but not broken, intermittent, thermal, due for upgrade. They put a work order in. I have seen those work orders before. They go into a stack. We checked the catwalk lock with them. Keyed, smooth. The door frame paint had a small rub near the latch like it had met metal. Could be old, could be new. Hard to say. One bolt on the catwalk bracket looked bright like it had turned a hair. They tightened it, wiped it with a rag, and said the building shifts when weather shifts. That is true. It also does not help you sleep. We pulled the ladder out with daylight on it and looked for prints, nothing clear. A few smudges like gloves or dry hands. The art handler swore he folded it flat before he left the day before. He is not a person who forgets how a ladder should sit. We tagged it with a fresh sign that said, store flat and taped. We added a line on the toolboard, note ladder angle if used. Tiny rules, but they make people think before they touch. The crate seals all read right. No broken numbers. But that one corner with my pencil line had a crack where it had been lifted and pressed back. The manager took a photo, replaced the whole strip, and wrote, seal reissued, in her log. On paper, that is how you fix it. In your head, it does not fix anything. Housekeeping walked B with us and said they had not cleaned the mezzanine rail in a week. The twin finger wipes were plain in the dust. We all stared at them like they might answer. They did not. We left them there so we could tell if more shows up. The coin trick stayed in my pocket after that. I do not like telling people I use a coin. I still use it. We checked the sign-out board. No initials for the ladder, no initials for the lift, no extra keys missing from the can. The landline on the dock made its little click once and then behaved. The motion light in the hall worked like a normal light in the day, which is to say, dull and on time. I wrote my full report. Plain words, times written out, no drama. Just a list of small things that do not sit right. The ladder opened when no one signed it out. The tarp moved, the hinge mark broke, the tape line wrinkled, the postcard slid, the camera froze, the rail wiped, the door sighed, steps above with no one there, warm metal where it should be cold. I added what we did, called it in, cleared with officers, tightened hardware, reset camera, replaced seal, added tags and signs, asked for an upgrade. I ended with the sentence I use when nothing has a name yet. No subject on video due to outage. The manager asked if I wanted another guard on nights for a week. I said yes. Even if nothing happens, I said, 2 sets of eyes help. She said she would see what the budget would allow. That is museum talk for maybe not. I still had to work that floor the next night. I went back with simple changes. I walked the laps in a new order. I cut my light different, lower, softer, so glare would not hide edges. I kept the art handler in view when he was on that level. I did not stand under the frozen camera pocket when I could stand 1 step left and keep my radio full. None of that proves anything. It just makes me feel like I am not standing still. Halloween week rolled on. No more loud moments, no more ladder tricks. The coin did not fall. The motion light kept its manners. The camera froze twice more, then behaved. Engineering said the network switch was tired. They said they would replace it in November. I hope they do. If you want a clean ending, I don't have one. Here's what I have. A ladder that opened itself when the room was supposed to be still, a camera that held a picture that didn't match the hour, dust that shows fingers where no one should reach, a door that remembers to breathe, and the sound of one careful step above a room with no name attached to it. On paper, the case is closed for now. On the floor, you feel it when you pass B. The air sits different. Not bad, just aware. When people ask what Halloween looks like in a museum, I tell them it looks like this. Small things that move half an inch when your back is turned, a tarp that slides like a breath, and a ladder that wants to stand up and be counted. Then I say the thing that keeps me honest. Old buildings learn people. Sometimes people learn them back. I worked nights at a small county 911 center. 1 room, 6 consoles, low ceiling, the kind of carpet that eats sound. Halloween week, storms in the forecast. We were on skeleton crew, me on primary calls, my partner on radio, and a trainee sitting beside me with a notepad and a stiff smile. The room looks simple until you have to live in it. Each console has 3 screens, CAD for typing the call, a phone map that shows where the call is coming from, and radio controls with sliders and little green lights. Above our heads, a clock glows red. To the left is the generator panel with a test OK light that sometimes blinks just to be annoying. Phones come in on labeled lines. 1 through 16 are hours. Line 17 is a ghost, reserved for testing or when the phone company moves traffic around. It's not supposed to ring. The tech taped a note to it months ago, do not answer, not in service. We still keep an ear open because phones don't read notes. It was quiet at first. School football had ended. Bars were slow because of weather. The trainees spun in a small circle on the spare chair and then remembered not to do that. I showed her the simple stuff, how to park a call, how to force a map refresh, how to send an officer's unit number to the radio screen so dispatch can see it. About 11:30 the wind woke up. You could hear it in the vents. The building sits by the tracks, so every now and then a train gives us a free rumble. On the radio side, my partner checked siren tests with the fire stations. Short beeps, all clear. We did the generator self-check. Green light. We logged it. Routine is half the job. Our phone vendor had sent an email earlier. Maintenance window after midnight. Light reroute possible. That means calls might take the scenic route and show up on a different trunk. Not a big deal. The trainee copied the email into the shift notes. She is good at that. Careful typing. No drama. We had the usual calls, a deer strike, a noise complaint that was really a TV too loud, and one, my neighbour's porch light is a code that turned out to be a motion sensor and a raccoon. We sent a deputy to look nice and say words like patrol and visibility. It calms people. It calms me sometimes too. After midnight, the room got that battery feel, charged and slow. We turned the overhead lights down one step because the glare makes the map hard to read. The only bright things were our screens and the red clock. The trainee asked what to do if the phones all jump at once. I said, answer what you can, don't guess, type what you hear. And if you don't know a road, say so, we can fix a map. We can't fix silence. She nodded. She is smart in the way people are when they haven't been scared by a console yet. We ran a quick drill. I pointed at fake addresses on the map and had her read the township names out loud. She stumbled on one with a French spelling and laughed at herself. It helped. The room felt like a room again, not a test. At 12:20, rain hit the windows sideways. The tracks sang once, low like someone rolling a barrel. The radio picked a little static and then cleared. My partner said, storms throwing elbows, and sipped coffee that looked like the color of the carpet. We checked the back phone, the old red analog that works even if everything modern fails. It gave us a nice, honest dial tone. I like that phone. It's ugly and useful. I watched the line list for a while the way people watch fish. Lights stay dark until they don't. Line 1 blinked once with a hang-up. Line 4 took a real call about a blown trash can. We handled it. We went back to waiting. The trainee asked about line 17. I told her what the tape says, not in service. Why do we keep it? She asked. Because phones lie sometimes, I said, and because the vendor likes to have a drawer to put calls in while they work on the closet. She didn't laugh, but she smiled, close enough. At 12:40, the vendor's maintenance window officially started. Nothing changed. We breathed. The clock rolled on. The train horn down the line gave us 2 short notes and then a long one, like a person trying to make a point. We were ready for the usual storm work, trees down, alarms out, people calling to ask if thunder is dangerous. It is, but not the way they think. The dangerous part is when a room like ours gets quiet and the wrong phone decides to know our name. 12:43 a.m. The wrong light blinked. Line 17 lit yellow, gave one short ring, and then sat there like it was thinking. The tape on the button still said not in service. I put my hand over the key without touching it and watched the caller ID box. No number, no name. Just a blank field and a timer that didn't start, because the system didn't believe the call was real. It rang again, half a ring this time, and opened itself without me pressing anything. In my headset I heard wind, not room noise, not static. Real outdoor wind like the kind that pushes leaves down a road. Then a ding, ding, soft and far, the sound a rail crossing makes when a train is close. No voice. No breathing. Just wind and that bell. Recording? I asked my partner. He slid the slider. Hot, he said. The trainee watched my screen and didn't blink. 911, what's the address of your emergency? I said it clear and slow. The wind kept blowing. The bell kept time. I tried twice more. Same answer, weather and a machine in the distance. The call dropped at 10 seconds. No hang-up click. Just gone. On my map screen, the system tried to draw a dot and quit. The ALI ANI box showed unknown. Then 2 seconds after the call ended, the box flashed a location, old county payphone at the freight spur that got pulled out 10 years ago. The note on it still says removed. I know that corner. It's weeds and a broken post. We stared at the screen. Vendor window, my partner said, meaning don't overreact. We logged it. Line 17, open carrier, wind, bell, mapped to retired payphone. The trainee wrote it all down and underlined retired like it wanted attention. 12:47 a.m. Line 17 rang again. Same half ring, same auto-open, same wind. The bell was louder now, like I was standing closer to it. I asked for the address 3 times. No voice. The call cut at 8 seconds. This time the map moved fast and wrong. It resolved to our building, the pin landing on the break room down the hall. That's not a location the 911 system should give me. Internal phones don't map like that. The trainee whispered, "That's here." I said, "I know," and kept my voice calm. My partner stood up and looked at the closed break room door, and then looked back at me. He didn't move toward it. That was smart. We called the vendor's after-hours number while we waited for the next thing. Their message said the usual, "We're working on it." No human, just a recording. I left our ticket number anyway. 12:50 a.m. The wrong light rang a 3rd time. The wind sound was inside the call again, steady now. The bell was slow, like the bar was down and waiting. Under it, for the first time, I heard a small sound that wasn't weather, a click, like someone touching the handset with a fingernail. I said, "If you can hear me, say anything. Tap the phone. Cough." The click came again, then nothing. The call cut at 7 seconds. The map didn't even try this round. I sent a quiet message to patrol on the CAD. When clear, swing by old freight spur. No lights, sirens, stay in car. My partner raised his eyebrows. I said, "Just eyes." He nodded and sent it as a low-priority check. We ran a test from the back red phone to make sure our gear wasn't pretending. The test came through clean on line 1, mapped to our address like it should. So it wasn't everything, just 17 being stubborn or being used. 12:54 a.m. The trainee asked if she should pick up the break room phone to see if it rings with us. I told her, "No, we don't chase the wrong thing. We let the problem come to us where the logs can see it." She nodded hard. She was brave enough to be careful. The room had that waiting sound the center gets when 3 people aren't talking. The rain pushed harder. The clock glowed red. We watched the wrong light. It didn't ring. It clicked open instead. No ring, just a live line that grabbed our ear. The wind was gone. In its place was the soft hum you get when a line is open in an empty room. I know that sound because I have sat in empty offices with a phone off the hook. It's not true silence, it's a kind of air. 911, do you need help? I asked. The hum didn't change. The trainee leaned toward her screen and whispered, "The timer's counting this time." She was right. The system thought it was a real call now. The map spun, made a guess, and landed 1 mile east of us, in the middle of the river where no one lives. Then it corrected to the freight spur again, and then back to our break room, and then blank. Our system doesn't do that unless it is being fed bad food. "Hang up, we'll call back," my partner said. "Can't," I said. "No number." He knew that. Saying it out loud kept the room square. At 12:57, patrol keyed up that they were near the old spur. "Crossing is quiet," the deputy said. No bell, no cars, nobody standing. He let his unit idle and listened with us. Our phantom call stayed open another 5 seconds and then dropped like a string cut. 1:01 a.m. Lena 17 rang once and opened itself again. This time there was breathing, not heavy, not fake, just a person trying not to be heard. It came in little sets, 4 in, 4 out, like someone counting. You can tell real breathing from wind. This was real. I said, "If you need help, Say yes. The breathing got tight, then slow again. Over it, very faint, I heard a door, closer, hiss and click. If you work in offices, you know that sound. Our break room has one like that. Record is hot, my partner said, though I already knew. The trainee had a pen in her hand and didn't write, she just watched. The call stayed for 12 seconds, then dropped. The map never found a home. We logged it all: wind, bell, empty room hum, breathing, closer hiss, maps that changed like a guessing game, 17 opening without a ring. We kept our voices steady. The job is telling the story while it happens, and not adding parts. Inside my chest, my heart did the quick step. Outside, my hands sat still on the desk. 1:04 a.m. Line is 17 stayed dark. Line 3 took a real call about a limb down on a road. We worked it like normal. While I typed, I could feel my ears wanting to listen for the wrong light. That's how nights go, 2 jobs at once, one job you can prove, and one you can't. The deputy near the spur called back. "I'll sit here 5, he said. "If it rings, I might hear it." We all thanked him, even though we knew that isn't how phone trunks work. Sometimes saying thank you is enough. At 1:06 a.m. the wrong light came to life again, and we leaned forward without meaning to. 1:06 a.m. line 17 lit and opened itself. No ring. Live right away. First came the breathing again, steady, careful. Then a new sound under it, low and smooth, like a big fan or a truck far away. I know the room's air handler hum. This was lower. It rolled in a way you feel more than hear. 911, can you say yes? I tried once. The breathing kept its count. The low sound rose and fell like a slow wave. The map tried to help and gave us a joke, a pin in the river, then a hop to the rail spur, then a hop to our break room, then blank. The timer on the call hit 15 seconds and then the line dropped on its own. The trainee pressed her lips together and didn't speak. She wrote it clean in the notes. 1:07 a.m. My partner called down the hall toward the break room without leaving his console. "Anyone in the kitchen?" We waited. No answer. We are not supposed to leave the floor with only 3 people, so we didn't. Patrol came back on the air. Still quiet at the spur, no crossing bell, no pedestrians. He left his unit window down and let us hear the night on his side. Just rain and the tick of his car. 1:08 a.m. 17 lit again and gave one soft ding before it opened. This time the sound was wind plus metal, that little rattle a loose sign makes, then the bell at rail speed, then a clack, like a gate arm touching the pole. It felt like a place more than a person. "Vendor window," my partner repeated, calm on purpose. He flagged the ticket again anyway. We pulled the back analog phone off the hook and set it beside us, ready. If the whole digital side went weird, we could jump to copper in a breath. Just seeing that ugly red phone made the room feel less alone. 1:11 a.m. The wrong light woke up, and for a second I heard nothing. True quiet, which is not normal on a phone line. Then a soft click, as if a finger had found the hook and changed its mind. "If this is a prank, it stops now," I said. The words felt small, but you say them anyway. The call sat for 9 seconds and cut. The trainee raised a hand, like class. "Do we call the break room?" she asked. "We can't," I said. "It doesn't have a number we can hit. It's just a plain set on the building PBX. She nodded, then typed that sentence into the notes, so later it wouldn't sound like we forgot a step. 1:13 a.m. line 3 grabbed a real crash, single car into a ditch. We split focus the way you do in storm hours. I sent EMS, my partner toned fire, the trainee tracked units. While I took the report, 17 flashed again in my side vision and opened by itself. I kept one ear on the caller in the ditch, and one ear on the wrong line. On 17, I heard footsteps, slow, rubber soles on tile, the kind of floor we have in our hall. Then that door closer, hiss and click again. The breathing came back for 3 cycles, then the call cut. The map never tried. 1:19 a.m. The deputy at the spur said he would take a quick pass up the service road by the river and then clear. "No activity here," he said, "no trespass." His voice sounded bored, which was good. Bored is safe. The trainee whispered, "What if it's our phone line bleeding in?" She meant the PBX doing tricks. It was a fair thought. My partner checked the building phone panel on his screen. All showed idle. He pinged the break room set from admin tools. It came back on hook. If a handset was lifted down the hall, it would say off hook. It didn't. 1:22 a.m. 17 opened and stayed open. No wind, no bell, no breathing. Just that low roll again, now stronger, the kind of low that makes your ears feel full. The trainee touched her ear and winced. "Do you hear that?" she asked. We all did. It wasn't our HVAC. Ours has a higher whine. This was below it, like a big thing passing by at a distance. I wrote low roll tone present and underlined it. I don't like writing about sound like that. It makes you sound like a person trying to make poetry at work. But if you don't write it, you forget it. The call held for 22 seconds, longer than any of the others, and then dropped. A second later, the radio picked a small flutter and cleared. My partner glanced at the storm radar on his side screen. The blob was sliding north. "Gust front," he said. "Maybe." 1:25 a.m. While we were resetting our shoulders, line 5 grabbed a normal call, alarm company on a pantry door at a church. False alarm. We cleared it. When I hung up, I saw 17 strobing fast. It opened, closed, opened, closed, 3 short bursts in 5 seconds, then sat steady and let us hear a single exhale and a throat clear like someone who forgot themselves. "Hey," I said, plain, "you called us. Tell me where you are." The line went dead like a person caught their breath and hung up. The trainee had stopped spinning in her chair an hour ago. Now she sat very still. "I keep thinking I'll hear my own voice on it," she said. She meant the way old systems feed you back. I told her if that happened, we would take the headset off and walk outside for a minute. She smiled like that was the right answer. 1:28 a.m. Patrol cleared the spur and went back in service. "Nothing here but wet gravel," he told us. "If you get a real hit, send me again." He was kind enough not to add, "if it's real." 1:31 a.m. The wrong light opened to a room tone I recognized right away. Our own radio room. There's a tiny hiss the console speakers make that you don't notice until someone records it and plays it back. Over it, faint, I could hear our clock click its plastic every minute. Then a chair squeak that sounded like mine, but could have been anyone's. It made the hair on my arm lift because that's not a thing that should cross a trunk by itself. "Recording's hot," my partner said again, even though we both knew. The trainee tapped the record flag on CAD with her pen without touching the screen, like a superstition. The call cut at 6 seconds. The map gave up and stayed blank. We decided on a plan. If 17 opened again and gave us breathing or a voice, I would hold it while my partner walked to the hallway just far enough to look at the break room door. He wouldn't leave the floor. He would just stand in the doorway and listen. We weren't chasing ghosts. We were checking our own house. 1:34 a.m. The line obeyed, opened, breathing present, slow and careful. "Now," I said, and my partner stood, took 2 steps and leaned to see the hall. He stayed in my sight the whole time. He listened. His face didn't change. He came back and sat. "Door is closed. No light under it. No sound," he said. He wasn't lying to make me feel better. He doesn't do that. 1:37 a.m. 17 stayed quiet for a full minute. We worked a minor crash and a welfare check. The room relaxed a hair. Then the wrong light opened one more time and gave us a clear two-word whisper. It wasn't much. It might not even play back clean. But all three of us heard it the same way. Don't wait. No wind under it. No bell. A small tap like a finger on plastic, then the line fell. The map stayed blank and looked tired. We all sat there for a second with our hands doing nothing. The trainee said, very soft, "Do we send someone here?" She meant the hallway. I shook my head. "If it wanted here, we'd have here," I said. "We'll keep the door shut and we'll keep answering phones." I typed the note, two-word whisper, "Don't wait." I felt foolish writing it and wrote it anyway. 1:42 a.m. The vendor finally called back. A sleepy voice said, "We do see a weird route on your 17 trunk. Might be test spillover from a carrier. We're isolating. You may hear some cross-traffic." We told them what we had. He said, "It shouldn't map to you like that." We said, "It did." He said he would look harder. We said, "Thank you, because that is what you do when you need someone to care." The rest of that hour, 17 blinked twice more, both times opening to quiet air for 3 seconds and then dropping. No breath, no bell. The river pin didn't appear again. The spur pin didn't either. The break room didn't try to own us. It was like the line had gotten the message and gone cold. At 1:59 a.m., the red clock ticked to 2. The storm pushed farther north. The radios calmed. The trainee let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. I told her she did fine. She said, "I kept waiting for it to be a prank." I said, "Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't." We still answer. We saved the recordings, stamped the notes, and took turns looking at the closed break room door from our chairs like it owed us rent. No one opened it. We would wait until day shift to let maintenance or admin poke at it. Do not enter until the scene ends. That rule isn't just for cops, it's for nights like this too. 2:03 a.m. The room felt smaller. We kept working the normal calls, but our ears leaned toward the wrong light. 2:05 a.m. Line 17 opened with no ring and gave us the breathing again, steady and close, like the mic was near a mouth. I said, "If you can talk, say yes." The breathing paused, then started again. Over it came a soft tap. Tap, spaced out like a finger touching plastic, not sure if it should. "Hold the line," my partner said, and keyed a quiet message to patrol. "Swing by our building. No lights, no siren. Meet at main door." The trainee watched the hallway on the small admin camera and kept her hands flat on the desk. The call held for 20 seconds, then dropped. A second later, the break room camera, a tiny, cheap one aimed at the fridge, glitched once, a white bar across the image, then came back. We almost never look at that camera. Tonight, we did. 2:07 a.m. the deputy pulled into our lot, lights dark. We buzzed him in. He walked up calm, one hand on his radio, the other hand open. We briefed him in a line or two. Bad phone on a test trunk, breathing, door sounds, wrong map pins. He nodded once like a person who has heard stranger things on midnights. "Do you want to open the break room?" he asked. "Or do you want me to stand there while you open it?" I said I wanted him to stand there while we opened it, because if it was just a bad handset, I didn't want to report with a headline. He smiled a little at that. 2:09 a.m. We walked to the hall together. We did not leave the floor empty. The trainee stayed at my console and watched the phones, ready to scream my name if any line jumped. My partner and the deputy stopped at the break room door and listened. The deputy tipped his head, then shook it. "Quiet." He knocked, not loud, just enough to own the space. "Sheriff's office?" he said. "Anyone inside?" We waited. No voice. He nodded at me. I used my badge to pop the latch. The closer hissed and released like normal. The lights were off. The room smelled like coffee and paper towels. I held the door with my foot so it wouldn't slam. The deputy clicked his small light once across the counters and the table. Chair tucked in, trash can half full. The phone on the wall sat in its cradle, cord hanging in a neat loop. Nothing special. Regular room. "May I?" he asked, and picked up the handset with 2 fingers. Dial tone, clean and plain. He put it back. He laid his hand under the handset for a second and said, "Warm?" He wasn't sure. I put my hand there too. Maybe a little, maybe not. Rooms play that trick on you. Back at the consoles, the trainee said, 17 just flashed, then stopped. We looked at the panel. All dark now. She added, "The break room camera didn't flicker this time." Her voice had that careful tone people use to keep the room calm. We left the break room as we found it. Door closed, latch set. The deputy said he'd walked the outside of the building once, slow. We thanked him. He went out into rain that had turned from hard to fine. 2:12 a.m. we sat again. I set my headset and tried to breathe like a person who hadn't just opened a door to nothing. My partner wrote 3 lines in the log: deputy on site, break room clear, handset normal. 2:14 a.m. 17 woke and opened. No ring, no wind, just the low roll again, stronger than before, like a big thing passing close by. The deputy keyed up on radio from the lot. "I can feel something through the car floor," he said. "Like a train, but the tracks are dead this time of night." His voice was plain, not spooked, just reporting. The line in our ear carried the same low push. My trainee touched her ear again and blinked. "Sir, if you can hear me, do you need help?" I said, into the headset. "I don't know why," I said, "sir." Habit. A small click answered me, like a nail on plastic. The call held 30 seconds, longest yet. Then it dropped, and took a little of the room with it. 2:16 a.m., the generator panel in the corner flickered its test OK light once, and settled. We all saw it, and all pretended we didn't. When a building wants to join the story, you don't let it. 2:18 a.m., the break room camera showed a tiny change. The chair at the table had scooted a finger's width away from the table edge. That could be the floor settling. It could be the cleaner bumping it earlier and us not noticing. The camera stamped the time. The trainee stamped it in our notes too. The deputy came back inside and stood in the doorway, hat in hand like an old movie. "Nothing outside," he said. "Wind's back down. Do you want me to hang a bit?" We said yes. He pulled the spare chair from the wall and sat near the door, not in our way, eyes on the same panel we were watching. 2:21 a.m. 17 opened and for the first time gave us a voice that wasn't mine or the room. 3 words, plain, low, like a person doing their best to be brave into a phone they didn't trust. Not a whisper, not loud, just close. We all heard it. "At the door." That's what it sounded like. The line hissed once more and dropped hard like someone took the cord out of a wall. The deputy stood without being told and looked at our door. Nothing there, no knock, no shadow. Just a door and a badge reader and rain on glass beyond it. He stayed standing. I typed the words as I heard them. Caller said, "At the door." My hands didn't shake. The trainees did a little. She put her hands in her lap and sat on them. Smart. 2:23 a.m. the panel stayed quiet. The red wall clock clicked. A regular call came in about a tree across a driveway. We sent a unit and a public works note. The world, big and small, kept going while our wrong line decided what to do next. 2:26 a.m. 17 opened one last time like it was tired of itself. The sound this time was room tone again, not ours, deeper, empty. Then a soft scrape that could have been a chair leg or a shoe. Then the closer hiss, the click, the breathing for 4 counts, and a very small sound I almost missed. A coin set down on a table, that thin ring metal makes. It hit my ear weird because it didn't belong here, but it belonged somewhere I had been lately. "Hello," I said, calm. "Stay on the line with me." The line went dead, straight cut, no drift, no fade, just off. We didn't chase it. We sat. The deputy sat back down. My partner wrote more notes with block letters that would be easy to read later. The trainee said, "Do we call admin?" I said we would at shift change with the recordings and the log. 2:30 a.m., the wrong light, stayed dark. It never rang again that night. We finished the shift with the small stuff, alarms out, 1 crash with no injuries, a lost dog that wasn't lost. When the wall clock rolled to 6, day shift walked in and the room got loud again, coffee and jokes and fresh eyes. We gave our hand over, simple words, no drama, just what happened, and what we did and what we didn't do. "Do not enter until the scene ends," I wrote at the bottom of the sheet, not because there was a taped-off scene, but because that sentence kept us from making a mess when a phone wanted us to. The deputy signed our log next to his name. He wrote, "Sat with them." It felt like a small blessing. I took my headset off and listened to the room with no electronics. Regular air. Machines sleeping, chairs being chairs. The break room door looked the same as always. I still didn't open it. Day shift came in and the room felt normal again. The phones sounded like phones. The red clock looked less loud. We handed it over simple. We saved every clip from line 17, wind, rail bell, breathing, door, closer hiss, the 2 small words, the low roll. We put them on a drive with the time marks and our notes. The deputy signed our log and wrote, "Sat in room, outside, check, clear." He left like people leave after a long night, quiet and steady. Maintenance opened the PBX closet and the break room phone line. Nothing strange. The handset worked. The cord was clean. The closet showed all green lights. They made a face at the dust and closed it up. The break room camera was the cheap kind. It stamps time right but wobbles when the compressor kicks. They said the chair nudge was probably the flaw in the fridge. Maybe. The vendor called back with their morning voice. They said our carrier had been moving traffic during the maintenance window and 1 test route leaked to our 17 trunk. They said the odd mapping could come from stale ALI records. They said it shouldn't have hit our break room or the river, and they were scrubbing that. They didn't have a reason for the breathing or the words. Phones don't breathe, they said, not without a person. We agreed. We pulled the train schedule just to make the room feel like a room again. No freight due at that time. The crossing bell near the old spur is tied to the rails. If a train isn't tripping the circuit, it shouldn't sing. Maybe wind knocked the arm. Maybe a test fed the bell. Maybe nothing and my ear wrote a story. I don't like maybes, but some nights end with them. We checked our own building again in daylight. The break room door closer worked smooth. The phone in there gave a happy dial tone. The tiny admin mic above the hall recorded nothing special. Just doors, shoes, coffee, people. No extra breaths, no whisper. It made me feel silly for the notes I had written, and I kept the notes anyway. We sent the clips to the vendor and to admin. We asked them to isolate line 17 until after Halloween week. The vendor nodded in email language. Admin said approved. The tech pulled the trunk off the hunt group so it would sit alone if it wanted attention. They put fresh tape on the button that said do not answer. We didn't need the tape. We already knew. We listened back to the 2 words 3 times in a row with day ears. You can hear them if you know what they are. You can miss them if you don't. We wrote the words down as we heard them and added unclear next to them, so a future file wouldn't act like we were sure. The deputy came back later for coffee. He stood in the same doorway and said he felt the low roll in his car once, then nothing. He asked if we wanted an extra pass by the old Spur that night. We said yes. He said he'd park there 10 minutes and listen. He is good at that, sitting still and letting a place tell on itself. The vendor sent a last email that afternoon. Routing patched, test calls removed, please advise if reoccurs. Words that make a box feel closed. The box never really closes. We do our job inside it anyway. I kept thinking about the small sounds, the door closer hiss, the chair leg scrape, the coin touch on a table right before a call cut. That coin sound bothered me for no good reason. It didn't belong in a 911 story. It belonged to some other night. I tried to throw it out of my head, and it stuck like gum. We added 2 small rules to the shift notes. If line 17 wakes again, record first, ask second. Do not open the break room mid-call. Do not enter until the scene has ended and someone else stands in the doorway with you. That last line isn't policy. It's just how you keep a night from turning into a mess. The next night was quiet. 17 stayed dark. The storm moved on. We answered normal calls and drank bad coffee and laughed once at nothing, because that's what rooms do after a worry passes. If you want a clean ending, I don't have one. Here's what I have: a test trunk that shouldn't ring, a map that wanted 3 places at once, a voice that used 2 words and then left, and a door that stayed shut because we asked it to. On paper, it's a routing issue during a maintenance window. In your chest, it's a hold your breath you feel when the wrong light learns your name. When people ask what Halloween looks like in a dispatch room, I tell them this. Sometimes the line you're not supposed to answer is the only one that rings. And sometimes the best thing you do is wait, write it clean, and let the scene end without you. I was covering nights for a small town school that doubles as a storm shelter. Big gym, cinder block halls, metal doors that like to slam, vending machines that never work right. Halloween week. The town had run a tornado drill that day, so the place still had folding signs out and extra cones stacked by the door. The rule after dark is simple. Keep the east emergency exit dogged, that means the bar is locked down. Keep the front glass on key only, and walk the loop every 15 minutes. If the weather sirens sound for real, we unlock the east door and staff up the check-in table. If not, the building sleeps. It was just me on site. Custodian went home at 10. Police do drive-thrus when they can, but they've got a lot of ground. My desk was a plastic table in the front office with a landline, a small camera screen, and a binder full of forms no one reads unless something breaks. The east exit has a reputation. It faces the ball fields and catches the wind. In summer, it sucks hot air in. In fall, it pulls cold air like the building is trying to breathe. The closer is strong, but the doorframe is old. People have written small pencil ticks on the threshold to show how far the door swings when you push it. The ticks don't match. The door has a mind. The generator room sits off a short hall behind the gym. We keep it on auto. If power dies, it fires. There's a little display screen that logs each run. It's loud when it's alive. You don't miss it. The CO sensor by the gym doors chirps low if the generator burps fumes, or if someone props doors for too long and a car idles by the curb. It saved us from dumb more than once. I started like I always do. Walk the outside, front glass locked, loading dock gate chain on, east exit bar dogged and the key pulled, ball fields empty, lights humming. Air had that brittle October feel that makes sound travel. You could hear a train miles off and think it was behind the trees. Inside I walked the loop. Gym floor waxed, lines bright, stacked bleachers quiet. Cafeteria chairs up on tables, library lights off, fish tank pump making that soft water note that means the fish are fine. Restrooms clean, paper stock good. The storm kit tote sat by the front desk, clipboards, vests, flashlights that work if you smack them. The camera system is cheap, 8 feeds, two that freeze whenever someone microwaves leftovers. One camera looks at the east exit. It's black and white and puts a glow around anything wet. If it rains, the whole screen looks like ghosts. Tonight it was dry, so the picture was clean. Door closed, latch bar seated, no shadows moving. I signed the log at 11, building secure, east exit, dogged. I put a sticky on the clock to buzz me every 15 minutes because time slides at night if you let it. I poured bad coffee and made a plan. Lap, sit, no sleeping, no shortcuts. First lap, nothing moved. Second lap, the east exit gave a tiny shiver against its frame when the wind puffed and then settled. The pencil ticks on the threshold were where people left them, little hatch marks like a cheap ruler. I pressed the bar to be sure it was locked down, solid. I wrote East Door Firm in the margin because writing makes me pay attention. Down by the generator room, I opened the sight window. The panel light was green. Last run, none. The metal smelled like dust and oil, normal. I shut it and checked the CO sensor by the gym. Silent, green, bored. I sat at the desk and watched the camera wall instead of my phone. The east exit feed showed static, then settled. The front glass showed a raccoon walk across the frame like he owned the sidewalk. I said, "Hello, sir," because talking to animals at night is better than talking to yourself. At 11:40, I heard the east door make a long rub sound against weather strip and then stop. That happens. Metal flexes when the temperature drops. Still, I stood up and did the loop sooner than planned. The door was closed. The latch looked right. The dog was set. The pencil ticks had a faint dust smear on one of the far marks like someone's shoe, or the door sweep had brushed it. I wiped the tick with my thumb. The dust came off easy. Back at the front, I wrote door rubbed, checked OK. I circled it. I don't know why I circled it. Maybe I wanted my future self to see it. At midnight, the town got quiet enough to hear the highway. The vending machine in the hall buzzed, then thunked and forgot itself. The gym made that big room sigh that gyms make when the building cools. I took a slow lap with my flashlight low. In the east hall, a dry leaf had blown in some time earlier and was stuck to the baseboard by the exit. I left it there. Small things help you see change. The exit sign over the door glowed steady. My hand on the bar felt cold. When I came back to the desk, the camera for the east door flickered once and showed a brighter band at the bottom of the frame, like the door had a thin gap under it for a second and then closed. Could be the camera, could be the door. Cheap gear makes you guess. I checked the binder to see when the last service was. The east exit had been adjusted 2 months ago. The note said, tightened closer, lubed latch, tested good. The custodian wrote, still rubs in wind under it in pencil. It was a slow night. No ball games, no club kids, no janitor with a buffer. Just me and a building that breathes. I set my watch for another lap and told myself, like I always do, that small noises are just noise until they aren't. On the next lap, small things were wrong. The east exit didn't look the same from down the hall. The door sat against the frame, but the latch plate didn't look seated. I pushed the bar with 2 fingers to test it and felt nothing. The dog was still down. But when I put my palm on the metal and leaned a hair, the door gave me a thin, inward move, like someone had just let it swing and it stopped against the closer. Emergency doors here are supposed to push out. This one felt like it had learned a new trick. I looked at the pencil ticks on the threshold. Last lap, they were a neat cluster. Now a light smear dragged over the far mark like something brushed it. A little ridge of grit sat along the line, new enough to still be sharp. The dry leaf I'd left by the baseboard had turned, so the stem pointed toward the gym, not the door. That sounds tiny. It is. Tiny is how you see change. I checked the bar dog again. It was set. The bar didn't move. But when I put my shoulder near the hinge and eased what little play the door would give, I felt a thin, cool draft on my wrist. I let it go. The door came back that hair and settled with a soft rub against weather strip. The rub sounded fresh, not greasy. Back at the desk, the camera for the east door flickered and showed a bright band along the bottom like the slab had lifted a fraction. Then the picture went normal. The time stamp hiccuped 1 second and corrected. Cheap recorder or real gap. I wrote it and kept moving. I walked to the generator room because that's what you do when a building gets ideas. The panel was green. Last run, none. But when I cupped my hand over the louvers, I felt a little warmth I didn't like. Not hot, just not the same as the hallway. Metal inside the room smelled like warm dust, the smell you get after a short run. The log still read none. I put my fingers on the exhaust pipe and pulled them away fast. It wasn't burn hot, but it had memory on it. The CO sensor by the gym blinked once, one short yellow flash, then back to green. It didn't chirp, it didn't log, just a blink, like it wanted to clear its throat. Back to the east hall. The exit sign was steady. The leaf now sat 2 inches closer to the middle of the hall, not where a breeze would put it if air came in. It looked like a shoe edge had nudged it and then kept walking. There were no clear shoe prints, just that leaf out of place, and a faint arc of dust by the sweep line. I set 2 small tells, the kind that don't cost you anything. I laid a thin strip of painter's tape across the threshold, end to end, flat as I could make it. If the door moved more than a hair, the tape would wrinkle. I also put a cheap coin on its edge against the baseboard by the hinge. If the door shook the wall, the coin would nap and tell on it. I checked the hinge screws with a pocket screwdriver, snug. The strike plate showed a fresh, shiny arc, a little half-moon, where metal had just rubbed metal. I ran my fingertip over it and came away with a grey line, not old. On my way back to the desk, the vending machine in the hall did its heavy thunk like someone kicked it, then hummed louder for 3 seconds and relaxed. When those things surge, they can throw noise on the camera lines. I made that deal with myself so I wouldn't have to make another one. At the desk, I wrote it simple. East door gives in a hair, threshold tape set, coin set, hinge tight, strike shiny, camera flickered, CO blinked once, generator warm smell, log says none. Plain words. No story. I sat and watched the camera wall for a minute. The front glass showed empty sidewalk. The gym camera showed a calm floor and the little bounce of the exit sign in its reflection. The east door feed looked like it always does when nothing is happening, a grey rectangle with a door in it and the world behaving. A minute later, the east feed brightened at the bottom again, a thin glow along the slab, and I heard, very soft, the closer give a slow shh like a person letting out a breath with their mouth closed. I stood up without meaning to. Back in the hall, the painter's tape had a tiny, ripple-dead center, the size of a fingernail. The coin lay flat on its face. The leaf had spun another quarter turn. The bar was still dogged. The door still leaned that hair inward if I laid my palm on it wrong. When I stepped back, the draft on my wrist was gone, like someone had decided to stop breathing on me. I keyed the landline and called the non-emergency number to log a check. East exit acting floaty, no alarm, will keep an eye. If a unit has time, drive past the east lot. The dispatcher said they'd note it. I wasn't asking for lights. I was asking for a human near my wall in case the door wanted an audience. On the way to the generator room again, the CO sensor gave one soft half chirp. Not the full alarm, a hiccup. I stood under it and counted to 20. Green, quiet. In the generator room, the panel still said none for last run, but the louvers felt a degree warmer again, and the air inside had the taste of exhaust, hanging like an idea. I shut the door and stood in the gym with the bleachers like a stack of dark teeth and tried to be a boring person. Boring people don't run, they write their notes and keep walking. So I kept walking, back to the East Hall, back to the thin tape, back to the door that wants to open the wrong way for reasons it won't tell me. That was when the exit sign blinked, off for a heartbeat, on again, while the rest of the lights held steady. The camera caught that too. The timestamp didn't jump this time, it just watched the blink and kept counting. I told myself the ballast is old. I told myself the closer is sticky. I told myself the generator fan kicks once at night to be sure it's alive. I wrote all three on my pad so later, when someone asked why I didn't call it sooner, I could point to the dull reasons and not the sharp ones. Then I set one more tell because tells are how I stay honest. I slid a receipt 1 inch under the door from the inside so the edge pointed toward the gym. If air pulled hard or a hand moved the slab, the paper would pivot. I pressed it flat with 2 fingers and stepped back. My watch buzzed for the next lap. I started over like it was any other night. Outside, inside, hall, gym, door, tape, coin, leaf, breath. It's all the same until it isn't. The next part came on slow, the way a storm shelf creeps across a field, and then it's just there. I made another loop. From halfway down the East Hall, I could see the door wasn't sitting quite right. The slab looked level, but the shadow line under it was a hair brighter, like the bottom edge was tasting air. The painter's tape across the threshold now had 2 small wrinkles, not one. The coin I'd stood on edge was flat again. Where I'd reset it, it had fallen, and I hadn't heard it go. I crouched and put my finger on the tape. It felt raised in the center, pressed at the ends, the way tape looks when something rides over it very lightly. The receipt I'd slid 1 inch under the door had pivoted, nose pointing a few degrees toward the hinge. If that sounds small, it is. Small is how doors talk when they don't want to wake the house. I laid my palm on the metal. A thin draft slipped past my wrist, cool and straight, then stopped. When I pressed gently, the slab moved inward that same hair and found the closer. Emergency doors here are meant to go out. Feeling it give in made my stomach feel like an elevator. Back at the desk, the camera feed for the east exit went bright along the bottom again, a thin glow like a gap, and then showed a darker band at latch height that could have been a hand shadow or could have been the recorder being cheap. The timestamp rolled fine, no jumps. I snapped a photo of the screen anyway. Screens lie less when you make them hold still. I checked the generator again because that's where your brain goes when something feels wrong and you want a machine to be the blame. Panel, still green. Last run, none. But the little louvers kissed my fingers with warmth, and the room held that warm dust smell like a cough you cannot quite call a cough. The CO sensor near the gym gave me another half chirp and a blink, then sat green and made me feel silly for watching it. I called dispatch the quiet way. No alarm, no door forced, no open zone, I said, but east door keeps breathing at me. If a unit swings by the east lot, I won't say no. The voice on the other end said they'd put it on the list. It wasn't a big night. They could probably do it. When I turned back into the East Hall, the exit sign over the door blinked once, off, on, and the vending machine did its big thunk like a person shoulder-checked it. The leaf on the baseboard had travelled another inch toward the middle. No one was there to kick it. There were no footprints. Just that quiet trail a dry leaf makes when a door moves air the wrong way. I reset the coin and stood it upright again. I smoothed the tape with my thumb, left the little ripples as they were so I could see if they changed. I squared the receipt so its edge pointed at the gym again, then stepped back 3 paces so I wasn't on top of it. I'm not superstitious, but I am not dumb either. Some things move because you stand too close. The building answered me by being extra polite for a full minute. No rub, no hiss, just the big gym breathing and the far highway saying it existed. Then, very soft, the closer let out a long shh, like somebody eased the bar with 2 fingers and changed their mind. The painter's tape lifted in the center, as if something tiny had rolled over it, then settled. The coin rattled once against the baseboard and napped. The receipt turned another small degree, slow, like a watch hand. The camera caught the bottom edge, brightening, held it, then showed a thin, dark wedge near the latch. The picture has bad contrast, so shadows look like more than they are. I still felt it in my teeth. I put my hand on the slab and felt that hair of inward play again, there and gone. The generator panel gave me one blink of its test OK light like it wanted a part in the story, and then went quiet. I wasn't going to let it. I opened the sight window and stared at the line that read, "Last Run." It sat there with the same word, none. I shut the window and told the room, "You're fine." A patrol car rolled the east lot slow and easy. I saw the sweep of headlights crawl across the door seam and step off into grass. The light made the door's gap glow for a heartbeat. The officer paused at the curb and idled. He keyed up. "Lot looks good. I'll sit a minute." He didn't get out. He didn't need to. It helped anyway. With a human outside, the building chose quiet. That happens. Places behave when a stranger watches them. I took advantage of it and walked the inside loop fast. Gym, clattering soda machine, quiet library, front glass, then back through the hall, so the door never got more than a minute without me. On my return, the painter's tape across the threshold had a new crease near the hinge, not the center. The coin had slid a thumb's width and lay on its face like a tired thing. The receipt sat square this time, no drift. That bothered me more than if it had moved. It looked like someone had set it back. I pressed my ear to the seam. The metal was cold, no voices. But the draft came and went in a neat little pulse, as if the building was practicing slow breaths, 4 in, 4 out. I know that count because I catch myself doing it when I want my hands to stop being stupid. I tested the bar without unlocking it. Solid. The dog held. I looked at the strike plate and saw a fresh, silver half-moon where the latch had rubbed. I ran my nail along it and the edge felt new. If you've ever watched metal learn a habit, you know that bite. I walked to the front desk and pulled the access panel up on the tiny screen. No door open from the east exit, no door held, no forced. The system was as happy as a screen can be. I don't like when a screen is happy and my eyes aren't. I took one more slow pass to the generator room. Same green, same lie that said none. I touched the exhaust again like a fool and pulled away faster. Warm. Not new car warm. Memory warm. The CO sensor blinked once with a half-throat chirp. Green again. No alarm, no log. I wrote it all down in the most boring way I could. East door, small inward play. Tape now with 2 wrinkles and a crease by hinge. Coin fell twice. Receipt drifted, then reset. Camera shows bright bottom band and dark wedge. Exit sign blinked once. Vending machine thunked. Generator warm smell. Panel still says none. CO blinked but no trip. Patrol eyes on east lot. The line looked like a grocery list. It kept my head right. I was at the part of the night where you either overreact or you overwatch. I chose overwatch. I sat 5 paces back from the hall so I could see the camera and hear the room. The patrol car idled until his timer made him move. He rolled off, slow. The lot went dark again. The building used the dark like a cue. The exit sign blinked off, on, off again, 2 quick heartbeats, while the camera showed the bottom edge of the door bloom bright. The closer sighed, longer this time, and the painter's tape pulled into a soft wave off the floor near the center and didn't lay back down flat. The receipt under the door slid an inch toward me, then stopped. Not a pivot, a slide. The coin skittered a tiny bit and came to rest against the baseboard, like it wanted to hide. I stood and took 2 steps toward the hall, and then stopped because the CO sensor chirped again, half, not full, like a dog clearing its throat in sleep. That stupid little sound has saved my life before. I looked at the generator door and felt the air shift by my knees as if the hall had just been emptied and refilled. I took the landline and called dispatch again, keeping my voice plain. "Same east door," I said. "No alarm, no open on the panel, but I have tape moving, paper sliding, and the sign blinking twice. Generator room smells warm." CO flirted. "I'm not entering the exterior until I have another unit on the lot." The dispatcher said, "Copy, 2nd unit rolling." I didn't touch the door. I didn't touch my tells. I didn't put my ear to the seam. I stood where a camera could see me and counted my own breaths so the building wouldn't pick my rhythm. From the gym behind me came the sound of a ball settling on a bleacher, hollow and small, and exactly the sort of thing a gym does on its own. It still made my skin try to leave me. Another patrol set turned in, tires on wet gravel. Headlights washed the door seam again and made the gap look like a white smile that wasn't. The officer got out this time. He walked to the door and stood under the exit sign and looked at the seam like it owed him rent. He didn't touch it. He looked at me through the glass and lifted 2 fingers the way people do when they're here to help and don't want to scare you. Inside, the receipt moved another small inch like something had blown in from outside, even though the slab still looked seated. The painter's tape lifted a little more and stayed lifted. The closer hissed a polite end to a breath that shouldn't have started. That was the end of watching. The next part would be doing, with another set of eyes at my shoulder and the night willing to admit what it wanted. The 2nd unit was in the east lot now. 2 officers. One stayed by the car, one stood under the exit sign and watched the seam. I stayed 10 feet back in the hall so the camera could see me and my tells on the floor. We kept it simple. I said through the glass, "We'll crack it on 3. Don't push from your side. Just watch." He nodded. I put my hand on the bar. It was still dogged. That means it shouldn't move. Even so, the slab had that tiny give inward I hated. I took a breath I didn't need and counted 1, 2, 3. I undogged the bar and pressed. The door didn't swing out like a normal emergency exit. First, it pulled in a hair like it wanted to come toward me, then the closer grabbed and let it go the right way. When it broke free, the painter's tape tore in 2 clean strips. The receipt slid out from under and shot across the threshold, and the coin rattled and disappeared under the baseboard. Cold air hit my knees. The officer outside took 1 step back, both hands open. "Got it," he said, soft. We held the slab half open. No one in the doorway. Ball fields empty, gravel lot wet and quiet. You could hear the highway and nothing else. I listened for a car door, a voice, any reason for a door to act like a person. Nothing. "Close," the officer said. "Let's see if it seals." I eased the door back. The closer pulled steady. The slab met the frame, then kissed inward that same wrong hair before settling. The painter's tape ends fluttered on the floor like tongues. The exit sign blinked once, fast, and then held. I locked the dog again and pressed the bar. Solid now. The officer outside put his palm to the seam and said, "I can feel a draft coming out." He meant from me to him, not the other way. That's backward for a door that should push air out." He frowned and stepped to the side so he could watch the parking lane while we worked. We agreed to a quick test. I stood just inside, he stood just outside. On 3, I would undog, push an inch and stop. He would watch the gap. We did it. The slab opened a finger's width and the whole thing breathed like a chest, in toward me first, then out toward him. We both felt it at the same time. He looked at me through the crack and said, "That's wrong." I said, "I know." Then the building decided to speak louder. The CO sensor at the gym let out a full chirp, one tone, then stopped. The generator room made a single metal pop, sheet metal flex, like it had been warm and got cool fast. The officer flinched and then laughed once under his breath, the kind of laugh people use when they don't want to make a thing bigger. "Hold the door," he said. He walked the line of the wall outside, eyes on the grass, looking for a person who would rather be a shadow. The other unit rolled to the far corner and lit the field with his headlights. Nothing moved except a plastic bag bumping a fence. I let the slab sit flat again. I checked my tells. The tape was ruined now, which told its own story. The receipt lay halfway in the hall, pointed toward the gym. The coin was gone. I didn't like that. Small things should stay where you leave them until the room earns the right to change them. We did a quick inside sweep with the officers. East Hall, gym doors, restroom, storage closet with the mop sinks, each door shut, each light off, each room empty. In the gym, something rolled on a bleacher and settled with a hollow sound. Could be a ball, could be the building. We didn't chase it. We stayed on the job we came for. Back at the east door, we tried one more test. I unlocked the dog, pushed the slab out 2 inches, and froze it with my shoulder. The officer outside leaned close and listened at the gap. He shook his head. No voices, no steps. Then from behind us in the cinderblock corridor, we heard running steps. Not a sprint, not showy. Just that clean, quick count you learn in a school hall. 4 steps, a turn, 4 more, then the soft hiss of another closer down the line, and a click. We all looked that way at once. The hallway was empty. The sound had moved like a person moves who knows corners. The officer inside with me didn't run. He put his back to the wall and waited for the second set. It didn't come. "Do not chase shadows," he said, half to me, half to himself. We closed the east door the rest of the way. The closer kissed the frame, and the slab did its little inward trick again before settling. The exit sign blinked once more like it wanted to be part of the team. We stood quiet until our breathing sounded silly. The officer outside circled the ball fields with his light. His beam caught fresh scuffs on the concrete by the door, small half-moons where a shoe pivots, not deep, new enough to shine. He radioed it in, then showed me through the glass. I took a picture with my phone so I wouldn't argue with myself later. We checked the access panel inside. No door open event logged, no forced, no held. The system said everything was fine. The system wasn't looking at my tape strips on the floor or the way my receipt had slid out like a fish. The officers asked about the generator again. We opened the small window and looked at the run log. Still none. The pipe felt warm, not hot. The room had the taste of exhaust, faint. The CO sensor stayed green and quiet and made me feel crazier than I was. "Here's what we'll do," the inside officer said. "You don't open this door again unless we're standing in this hallway with you. We'll park the second unit here for a while and shut the overheads to see if anyone gets brave." It was a good plan because it let time do the work. They killed their headlights and sat dark in the lot. I killed the hall lights and sat in the cross of glow from the exit sign and my small desk lamp. We let the building think we had gone away while we watched it. For 10 minutes, nothing. The camera made its cheap snow and then cleared. The vending machine hummed and forgot itself. The gym gave one long sigh and sat. Then the east door did its trick without my hand on it. The closer let a long shh. The bottom of the slab showed that thin glow on the camera, and the receipt that was halfway in the hall lifted and walked the length of the threshold as if something drew air from the outside and then pushed it back. The paper ended up pointed at the gym again, like someone had set it back neat. The officer outside keyed up quiet. Saw the seal wiggle. Door didn't open. Air moved. He sounded more curious than worried. That helped. We waited 5 more minutes. Then the inside officer said, "We're going to open and close one last time, then lock it dogged and call it for now." He meant we had seen enough for a report without turning the night into a hunt for a person who might not be there. We undid the dog together. The slab pulled in that hair again, then went out like it should. Cold air, wet concrete smell, ball fields empty. We counted to 5 and closed. The closer kissed. The slab did its wrong little in. The exit sign blinked once. We set the dog and tested. Solid. They logged extra patrols for the rest of the shift. I put fresh tape down, set a new coin, slid a new receipt under the door edge, and wrote a line in the book. Do not enter again tonight unless alarm trips or officers present. When the officers pulled away, the building went back to being a building. Quiet, then a sigh, then quieter. I sat where the camera could see me and kept my hands flat on the desk. I waited for the scene to end, because that's the rule that keeps you from making the wrong thing bigger. Morning makes buildings behave. People show up, lights go on, and all the small, weird things try to hide. I still wrote it all down and walked it with others because day eyes help. The custodian came in first with keys and a coffee. I told him what we saw, the door pulling in a hair, the tape wrinkling, the receipt sliding, the exit sign blinking twice, the CO sensor doing little half chirps, the generator room smelling warm, even while the log said none. He gave me the face people make when a door story asks for patience. Then he said, "Okay, let's look." We started at the east exit. In daylight, the slab looked fine. The strike plate had that fresh, silver half-moon I'd seen. He rubbed it with his thumb and came away with grey. "New rub," he said. He checked the hinges with a screwdriver. Snug. He put a dab of grease on the latch tongue. "Grease isn't magic," he said, "but it stops us from blaming dry metal." We pulled the closer cover. The screws were set heavy like someone had cranked them a month back to make the door close harder. He backed one off a quarter turn so it would kiss the frame without slamming. Then he did a thing I like. He took a pencil and drew a tiny line on the closer arm where it rests when the door is fully seated. "If the arm walks even a hair," he said, "we'll see it." We checked the threshold. The aluminum saddle was clean and tight. My torn painter's tape still lay there like a flag after a storm. The custodian smiled at the tape and said, "Good trick." I told him the receipt and coin trick too. He didn't laugh. He said, "I use sugar packets for that." I liked that answer. We opened the door from inside. In daylight it still did that wrong. In then out move before the closer caught. He felt it with me. "Yeah," he said. "Frames a hair proud on this hinge side. Whole building shifts when it gets cold. Still shouldn't pull in." He wrote "shim hinge, square frame" on his card. Outside we checked the sweep on the bottom of the slab. No stones stuck in it, no rag caught. The concrete at the sill had fresh scuffs, little half-moons where a shoe pivots. He noticed them before I pointed. "New," he said. He looked across the lot. "Kids cut through sometimes," he said, "but that still doesn't make the door breathe." Back inside, we opened the generator room. The panel light was green. "Last run. None still sat on the tiny screen. The custodian sniffed and made a face. "Warm dust," he said. He touched the exhaust pipe with a careful knuckle. "Not hot, but not asleep." He scrolled the tiny log menu deeper. There's a second page most people forget. It showed exercise set for every Tuesday at noon. That wasn't last night. The hour we had trouble was not on the list. He shrugged. "Maybe the fan spun," he said. "Maybe it burped." Maybes don't help much. We tested the CO sensor with a bump test Kenny keeps in a drawer. It chirped on command, then cleared and went green. "Sensor's honest," he said. He wrote "replace next quarter anyway" in pencil on his sheet. I pulled up the camera clips on the small DVR. We watched the east feed blink bright along the bottom edge, watched the exit sign blink twice, watched the receipt slide like a fish, watched my tape lift and not lay down flat. In the clip you could see the moment the officer's headlights washed the slab. The gap glowed and then went dark. "Your gear isn't fancy," the custodian said, "but that's not nothing." We checked the access panel logs. No door open, no door forced, no door held. The data looked clean enough to pass a test. We both stared at the empty lines and let the silence sit. By 8, maintenance rolled in with a cart. One of them nosed doors. He put a square on the frame, measured reveal, measured hinge set, and wrote a number on blue tape. "Frame's out a smidge toward the gym," he said. "Not enough to trip an alarm, enough to feel dumb at night." He loosened the hinge screws, slipped a thin shim behind the top hinge, snugged it again, and tried the door. It still did that inward kiss, but less. He turned the sweep screws a quarter turn so the rubber met the slab cleaner. He backed the latch plate one hair. He worked quiet, like a person who has argued with metal before. Then he did what I wanted most. He put a magnetic contact on the slab, one of the cheap stick-on ones, and tied it to a spare zone on the panel. "If it breathes," he said, "the box should at least admit it." He also swapped the exit sign ballast with a fresh one from the shelf. "If it blinks after this, it's not the sign." We walked the whole route with them. Gym was normal, storage normal, restrooms normal. In the vending machine panel we found a loose ground that can make a thunk when the compressor kicks. They tightened it. "This thing sings on the lines," the maintenance guy said. "Could be what you saw on the camera." Maybe. We made some cheap armor, a bright zip tie across the dog hole so anyone who undogs the bar has to cut it, a Tampa sticker on the hinge cap, fresh pencil ticks on the threshold. I laid a new painter's tape strip low where mop water won't kill it, and I drew a tiny dot with a Sharpie on the tape at center. If the tape walks or stretches, the dot will go egg-shaped. Maintenance didn't mind my kindergarten science. "Whatever helps your head," they said. We called police records and asked for extra patrols after sunset for 1 week, drive the east lot, idle a minute, then go. They said yes. Nights are busy, but this was small and easy. Before lunch, the principal stopped by. We gave her the boring version, door adjustment, camera flicker, extra patrol. She asked the right question. "Do we unlock for shelter if the siren hits?" I said yes, always, and I told her the simple rule we were following at night. Do not open again unless the alarm trips or an officer is with me. She nodded. "Common sense," she said. "Write it on the clipboard so subs don't guess." We did. By early afternoon, the door acted like a door in daylight, opened out, closed soft, no blink from the sign, no hum from the vending machine, louder than normal. We stood there with the gym full of sun and felt a little foolish. That's fine. Daylight forgives. I left a note for the night. East exit shimmed, closer eased, latch backed off, sweep adjusted, stick-on contact added, zone 9, log should show any tiny open. Exit sign ballast replaced, vending machine ground tightened, Extra patrols requested after dark, East Lot. Use tells if needed, tape, coin, receipt. Do not enter again tonight unless alarm trips or officers present. Then I did one more plain thing because it helps me sleep. I took a photo of the door seated, the pencil line on the closer arm, the new tape on the floor, and the tiny Sharpie dot. I printed it on the office laser and taped it to the clipboard with today's date. If anything moved later, we'd have a before we trusted. Halloween week has a way of making simple problems stretch. The day crew went back to their normal, the gym kids came for practice, the vending machine sold 2 sodas and claimed it sold 3, and the door behaved like it had manners. Night was coming anyway. And night is when you learn what the fixes really fixed. That's hour 3 for tonight. A ladder that would not stay folded, a phone line that should not ring, and a shelter door that learned to breathe. Allegedly true, told simple, the way nights remember. If you work nights, or you used to, talk to me in the comments. Keep names and places off the record, just the shifts, the sounds and what happened. Here are a few easy prompts. Which story stuck with you most? The ladder, line 17, or the shelter door? What's a normal sound that now makes you freeze? Door seal hiss, elevator ding, cart rattle, or a phone click with no voice? Have you ever used small tells on shift, tape, a coin, a receipt to see if something moved? If you want more like this, tap like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so the next long one finds you on your shift. It helps more than you think. I read every comment. Some of your stories will make it into a future episode. Details changed, the bones kept. If you share, keep it simple. When, where in general, what you saw, what you heard, and what you did. That's it. Next time, 3 new nights, an empty transit station with arrival boards that wake for a train that never comes, a warehouse catwalk where steps stop at the same spot every time, and a school pool where the lane counter clicks on its own. Different places, same feeling. Until then, do not open alone, record first, log what you see and let the scene end. Stay safe out there.